can't have like a YouTube video that's an hour long because it's too big of a file, so I have to have like 4 15-minute ones. Okay, in terms of foreign policy, the British were really funny about this. Number one, the British refused to repeal the navigation laws. Isn't that great? We're no longer their colony, but they're refusing to repeal the navigation laws. They're going to keep the forts on the western frontier. They're pretty much going to just see how much we can put up with. They're going to be giving they're aligned with Indians. They're going to be giving Native Americans weapons. What's the whole point of giving Native Americans weapons?
They can attack us.
They're going to attack us, right? And what's the whole point of attacking us?
Force us to crumble.
Yeah, making us weak, right? They want to be alive with us, but they want to keep us weak. Does that make sense? Remember, in diplomacy, it's all about self-interest. Is it hot in here? Okay. You guys look lethargic today. Why are we lethargic?
It's Tuesday.
That's not a good reason. Okay, the Spanish controlled these areas, controlled down here. The Spanish actually closed the port of the Mississippi River. Why would this be bad? Who is it bad for to close the port of the Mississippi River? What Americans is this bad for? People who are in the western frontier, right? They're using the Mississippi River to trade their goods. So this is hurting them. So now think about this. The British are hemming us in on our own country. They have forts on our own country, giving Americans weapons and stuff in our own country. They're hemming us in this way. The Spanish are hemming us in this way, and in Florida. Essentially, what is America standing in the world at this point? We are weak, right? We're a weak country. Don't think that America is the power that it is today. We're a really, really weak country, and these other countries were taking advantage of the fact. England was, the Spanish were, I should say. The Native Americans, the Spanish gave Native Americans weapons and supplies to try to keep us hemmed in this way. So the Indians are being supported on all sides by European powers to keep us weak. They don't want a strong America. In terms of France, where am I at? France wanted all their money back, right? They gave us a bunch of money. They loaned us a bunch of money during the war, and they wanted it back. So they start restricting, until we do that, they start restricting trade in the West Indies. So we're having a hard time trading, which is hurting our economy. The British are dumping goods. We're being hemmed in. America is in a really, really weak state. And what's the problem? Our central government's very, very weak. In fact, we were getting beat up by pirates. In the Mediterranean, you're not on the TV, but where's the Mediterranean? Brett, point to the Mediterranean. That's the Caribbean. This is the Mediterranean. All right. The Dey of Algiers, right, has this network of pirates, essentially. And what used to happen is when we would trade in this area, the pirates would take your crap, or sometimes just steal your ship and steal all your stuff and steal your men. In fact, make them sometimes be pirates too. So what England used to do was just every year pay the Dey of Algiers, right? Just pay this guy off and he would leave us alone. But now that we're no longer British, we're not going to pay this guy. So guess what the Dey of Algiers starts doing? Yeah, pirating us again. America has been beat up by pirates before. Many of them, like many of the pirates, enslaved the sailors, held them for ransom. So we were vulnerable. Literally, America was so weak, we couldn't beat up pirates from Algeria. We were like Eminence. Sorry if anyone at home is from Eminence. It's a beautiful community with decent test scores, but not great sports. At least not a great volleyball team. Do you guys even play Eminence anymore? Oh, you don't? No, it's too bad. It's nice to have that win on there sometimes. You guys play anybody that's just an automatic win? Are they that bad? Alright, what about Bergen? Are they bad? Why do you play Bergen? Huh. I think next year you should put Sayre on there. We're starting up a volleyball team. It would be nice if you wanted to beat up some rich kids, alright? What'd you think, so?
It's always nice to be rich.
Beating up rich kids. They beat us in academic team. Take that in volleyball. And you guys play Catholic in a couple weeks, don't you? So you can beat up some rich kids.
Well, they're pretty good.
Are they? You can beat them. All right. Let's talk about creating a confederation. All right. Let's talk about the Articles of Confederation. This is going to be an essay question comparing the Articles and the Constitution. So everybody needs to listen. All right. The better notes we take, the more questions you ask, the easier it's going to be. The whole thing about the Articles of Confederation was a reaction to the British. Very, very, very weak central government. States have all the power. Local control. Finally, the Articles were ratified in 1781, but we're talking very, very weak control of the government. In fact, our country tried a confederacy again. When was the other confederacy that America tried other than the Articles of Confederation? During the Civil War, and that was a weak government too. In fact, one of the reasons that really hurt the South during the war was they had no real strong leader. Lincoln had way more power. Do what?
When was it? I guess repealed.
I'll get to it. I mean, the Articles, it wasn't really repealed so much as a whole new revolution, but it's going to go away when our new Constitution comes up. We're going to get to that, okay? All right, so we have the Articles of Confederation, okay? So let's talk about how this was set up, all right? You have Congress, right? You have a Congress, and this is national, all right? Okay? There is, and obviously, what branch is Congress? What branch we call that? Legislative. So they have legislative power, right? They can make laws. The Congress can make laws, right? There is one vote per state. So each state is only given one vote in Congress. What is the good and the bad about that, do you think? Who'd be really happy with this?
Very small states.
Small states, right? Smitty, why would small states be really happy?
Because they have less people that they want more of the same things as less people.
Yeah, if Rhode Island has 10,000 people, and Virginia has 100,000 people, Rhode Island's pretty happy to have the same vote as Virginia, right? Because like, we're all equal. But if you're Virginia, do you see it as being equal?
Nope.
What do you see it as?
It's not fair that more people should know.
Yeah, we have a higher population, we should have more representation. But in Articles, it was one vote per state, and it took 2/3 to pass a law. Which means you had to get 9 states to agree to something. Today in Congress, what's it have to be? 50% plus 1, right? It's 1 extra vote. To have an amendment, to amend the Constitution, it had to be a unanimous vote. So Congress was stymied by a lot of really, really strict rules. The point of this, though, and listen very carefully, this is the minutiae part of it, the point of it was, like Jefferson loved this, because if there are all these rules to pass a law, it's hard to pass a law, it's hard to amend the Constitution, Congress is really weak, will they be passing many laws? No, they won't be passing many laws, and Jefferson thought that was great. Remember, Jefferson said, the government that governs least governs best? He loved it. Way more freedom. Who's actually passing most of the laws?
States.
States are, right? The states are passing most of the laws. Next, there is no president, right? No executive branch. So things like the Nuremberg Conspiracy couldn't be put down because there was no enforcement mechanism. There was no president. In fact, there was also no federal court system, which means no federal judicial branch. The only branch that was national was Congress. Okay. A couple other things about this that makes it weak. First of all, they did not have the power to tax. They could spend money, they could borrow money, they couldn't tax. So what they would do is they would say, hey, North Carolina, can you give us some money? North Carolina could say, no. And that was all right. So they couldn't tax. They had the right to go to war, but they couldn't raise an army. In fact, the Founding Fathers thought that a standing army was a threat to liberty, because if you get people and generals with too many weapons willing to do, they're likely to overthrow the government. They also could not control commerce, right? No commerce control. What is commerce? Trade. The government couldn't control trade. Now, you think this isn't a big deal of all these things? This sounds like the least big deal? This is what's going to end up getting us a Constitution. Think of it this way. What if, do most of the businesses around here sometimes sell to people or companies from other states? And if people from Kentucky sell to people from Tennessee, we don't put a tariff on them, right? But there were no rules. And so states were putting tariffs on each other. Maryland and Virginia almost went to war against each other over these issues. People were having a hard time with commerce. People were having a hard time with it. All right? What else? So you can't do no army. I think those are some limitations. One big question also is this, and this is involving Kentucky. What if states want to become, what if new territories want to become states? How do we do that? Like today we know what to do, but they didn't know what to do. Like if Kentucky and Vermont become states, are they equal to the first 13 states? Or are they not equal? I mean, no one really knew. So a couple good things that this thing actually did, it was really weak, but a couple of things actually worked out. One was the, and you can see it on there, the Land Ordinance of 1785. What this did, sort of like the Big Ten area, okay, the land like Ohio and Michigan, what we know today as Ohio and Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, Illinois, Wisconsin, these were put into territories, all right? They were put in territories. The land ordinance and those modern day states were split into regions. They were split into 6-mile squares, right? And each square, it was six. You don't have to draw it, but each area had its own 6 by 6 square mile, was called township. And in the middle, people could buy these lands. And in the middle part of the township, this was sold for schools. So the middle land would be sold, and the money would be going to for school. Now, what's good about this for a couple reasons? You're bringing education to the north, right? Number two, why is it in the middle of a township? It's easier to get to. I went to high school in Indiana. We have counties, like in Kentucky we have counties, in Indiana we have counties, but every county is broken down into townships. And I'm going to show you how the counties are aligned in the Midwest and how the counties are aligned in the South, and you're going to start seeing some of the differences. So this is how the Northwest Ordinance actually organized all of this territory. They're organizing territory. And the Northwest Ordinance is going to say, okay, here's how you become a state. The Northwest Ordinance of 1787 here says, here's how you become a state. Hannah, what's the number on that thing?
1407.
Okay, stop again.